And then, Georgia, are you gonna take notes for Ellen then? Did she contact you?
She did not.
Can you take some brief notes?
Sure, John, can you help me do that?
Thank you.
It's a recording.
Okay.
She said she was gonna copy just super high level, so she can look at the recording if she needs more detail.
I just need a sheet of paper.
All right, so I call this meeting to order
here.
at
Got one.
12:33. In accordance with Wisconsin Open Meetings Law, the recording notice of this meeting ran in Friday, June 12th issue with Waukesha Freeman, was posted on the LCCA website and front entry doors of both school campuses. The LCCA mission is to train the minds and improve the hearts of young people through a content-rich classical education in liberal arts and sciences with instruction in principles of moral character and civic virtue. So please rise and join me in reciting the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, off script, with the Pledge of Allegiance, is that something that's a required piece of the school board meetings? Or is that something you, is a Hillsdale piece? Is that something you've chosen to do? Just out of curiosity.
Well, it was built in the agenda and I followed along, but Margaret might know the history better.
I think it's simply something that we do to recognize our devotion to country and patriotism. So in most school functions with the pledge.
No, excellent. I can tell you that Minnesota has got it. Almost probably 2% gone away from it. And they had purposely removed it. So
Too bad.
it's too offensive in nature, so.
Not around here.
Differences in states and things that way, and I won't go any deeper than that, so. So I just found it interesting, so. All right. So again, you have up here on the agenda, and I wrote it on the board too, so that you can just kind of see. Today is just going to be any review and clarify that we need. We're going to go through each one of the 90-day goals, each one of the sections, just say any other thoughts here. And then we're going to assign owners to the 90-day goals. Remember, an owner, all you have to do, you don't have to do it all, but you just have to make sure it gets done. And if you're struggling, so in the meetings, and we'll go through the meetings. So in the meetings, when you review the 90-day goals, and Dan has pre-populated the first meeting agenda, which is not for tomorrow, but for the following, and we'll walk with you in that meeting. And it'll probably be Dan, and if he can, I don't want to put him on the spot, but if he can make it in person, he's not too far away, that type of thing, can be here to help be the guide on the side with that, and get that going. That's what we're committed to, is the first two meetings. Once you get past the first two, it should just become a rhythm and a flow where maybe you ask us some questions and things like that. And then by the third meeting, of course, which is the 90-day goal setting, we have to set, again, a separate time, and I would encourage that one to be a 4-hour block of time, understanding, just because I don't want to scare everyone that, it's always going to be 4. It will not be. It'll be 4 hours, then it'll probably be 2.5, then it'll probably get down to 90 minutes type of thing for each of the quarterly meetings. And then the annual meeting will be a little bit longer to reset, because you reset the 1 year as well as new 90, still tracking towards those 3-year leading out to the 6. Is that whole process still making sense?
Yes.
Okay. And this is that pedagogical teacher side of me, because again, in lesson plans, you're supposed to start with review. So you review previous lesson, then you start getting into a transition statement. Now we transition into the new content today. So we're going to transition into, unless there's any questions, we're going to transition into assigning those 90-day goals and any other clarifications that need to be. So Dan, if you want to pop up the 6-year, 3-year, 1-year, 90. And by the way, great day yesterday. There was a lot of good open discussion. There was, everyone talked. That is always a great thing, when everyone in the room talks. And that's what you want to do. And again, there was positive conflict. It wasn't just total agreement around, and the artificial harmony of nodding our heads and then walking out to the park. Hopefully, no one walked out to the parking lot talking bad, but I didn't quite watch for it. I'll watch for it today. But again, with that, when I was principal, actually, I really did watch for that, and I would walk into groups and say, hey, maybe I can help you with it. And then they'd be like, whoa. Let's see, and I'd be like, I think you may show some concerns. Let's talk about this. But that's just me, how I ran things. So here we go. So we go to the red, and maybe if we just start, Dan, if we just want, was there a 6 years with this one? Yep, so the 6 year, if you remember right, and this was great. I talked to Margaret afterwards. She thought it was great that we now have some clarity behind this. We have some encouragement behind this. She's kind of been running with this, but she's never necessarily felt like anyone said that's what she should run to. And again, it may change as you go along. If you find the perfect building, perfect situation, you may find that your optimal maximum number is 575. I don't know. It could be anything that way, and but you got to research it. But for right now, the Hillsdale, and I love the fact that there is some premise by it. Hillsdale says, potentially optimally, this is what is a good solid goal, 850. So we've got that in place. So then we built that backwards, and Dan, now we can go back to the 1 year 90, and again take a look. So 1 year is include new vision statement, along with values, and Eric and I were talking about too, even mission. Your mission is, we teach the mission is what and why. There is no one set definition. You don't have to do anything with your mission. Your mission is very clear on what you do. There's not a why with it. So again, the what you do. We teach this, we teach this, we teach this, we do this, we do this, but there's not a why. And the why would be, something generic. It doesn't have to be generic, but generic today for me would be like to create leaders for the next century and beyond. That sounds a little visionary. It's not. It's just, but why are you doing it? To make a positive difference in the community, to change people's lives. Why do you do it? You don't have to do anything with that. The mission is pretty solid on what you do. Then the vision is where are we going? Where are we going to be? As a school, again, 6 years from now, 10 years from now, into the future. And again, that can tie back into that statement of we are going to be the classical educational choice for students in the southeastern Wisconsin region. Whatever you want to be. But again, there's a process that goes with that. So we talked about that. So we said we're going to establish a work group to draft a clear vision statement that aligns with the mission. That's beautiful. That's great. You probably don't need Skylar on the phone anymore. Nope. So
I already hung up.
but he did. All right. Hello, Skylar. Good to see you. All right. So who wants to own that? Who's going to own making sure that in the next 90 days we've got the work group formed, and that we're working on that clear vision, and potentially maybe even values, or even looking at mission, whatever that work group decides. So who's going to own that? Margaret wants to own that?
You can. Is that good? Great.
I think that's a good fit. And I'm never going to assign anyone, but I think there are going to be some that just naturally fit. And again, as far as leading the school and being the conduit between the school and the board, quite honestly, that makes sense to me. And we do have I'm not trying to sell us, but we do have a wonderful process. Things that, please talk to us. If nothing else, we can tell you what we do, and then you can do what you want to do.
Great, thank you.
All right. Are we good with what we're doing here? Going through step-by-step assigning. And Georgia, from my perspective, I don't know how detailed I have to give notes other than we assign 90-day goals. But that's me.
Oh,
That's me.
Yeah, that's all
keeping
you.
minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm always, less is more, and the less.
where's the record of who's responsible for what if we need to hold the people accountable?
This is going to be embedded in your agenda, so that's coming up.
Oh,
Right there.
Yep. All right. Good there, team? All right, then the next one. We talked about enrollment, so enrollment, we need a plan. If we're going to grow enrollment, we need a plan, and it's, again, we don't know what that plan is. We don't know what phase one's going to be, but we're going to develop a plan. So therefore, we need a board representative with Clifton Larson Allen to review financial model forecasting, and that's going to be the initial step towards this plan.
That was actually on our agenda for tomorrow, but I was going to see, or give Skylar first crack at it as treasurer if you wanted to do that. If not, I can do it.
I'm happy to. My only thought was, does that align with what John's doing? I don't know the answer to that question, but with what John's doing from looking at the property. But yeah, I'm happy to do it if not.
I think you'll have to be talking, I'm sure, but I think they're separate functions that we can,
Okay.
if you're good with that.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
I don't see any
Work
reason.
closely because
Yeah.
I have the connection and, yeah.
I'm happy to do it with you.
Be part of that.
If you,
Yeah, I saw some enthusiasm from John with that yesterday. I would say John and Skylar, that's two, that's not a quorum, so we're good there. So we'll keep it to two, but but we need one owner for it, so who wants to own it to make sure it happens?
I can do it.
Okay.
I think it would make sense though for both of us, especially because you're gonna have to have some conversation, I think, with them from a
Yeah.
financial standpoint on the property piece.
About that for initials. You don't remember last names.
SF.
There you go, perfect.
And we're putting initials, does anyone have the same initials? We've run into that before, we've got doing middle initials. Okay. And the goal is to have one owner for 90-day goals. If you have two owners, maybe if it's really, really specific that there's two pieces to it. But if you start going more than two, then no one owns it. So that's the goal. All right, and then number 3, understand the dynamics. We talked about yesterday. Lori, you owning that? Are you comfortable with that?
Sure.
If I'm not, I don't try to put you on the spot. I just want to make sure. It seems like you have pretty good knowledge with it. Is that fit?
That's great.
Okay. All right. Any questions on the first section? We good there, team?
Great.
Okay. Then we go to the second section. So if we kick it back out, green is always finances. Just kind of coordinates. And again, why we color code, and you can do whatever you want. It's your document. So if you want to change colors and things like that, it's fine. But it just helps to show some of the linkage that these fit together. These are kind of one section. I think all will impact each other, but that is why we color code, just for, at a quick glance, you can kind of see what links together. So, all right. So the green section was run a self-sustaining budget. Take and define steps to running self-sustaining budget by year 3. The fully implemented capital campaign under the Director of Advancement. So under the 90-day goals, Director of Advancement has been hired. We're taking for granted that's going to be, you're going to be responsible for making sure that happens.
Correct.
Okay. And then the next one, create working group of board representatives, select others to be informed movement on capital campaign. Is that you, John?
Yeah, probably.
Is that John?
He's willing,
I heard him say as well.
Yeah.
Perfect. Great. Making sense, team?
Yes.
Any questions on the green?
If we slow down a little bit, I feel like we're going too fast. We're gonna run out of stuff to do.
Well, Georgia wanted me to take this longer. She was disappointed if we we're getting out earlier. So she was like, yeah. No, she did not say that.
Pedal to the metal.
Skylar, before you got here, I don't want to meet for the sake of meeting, but if we want to slow down and have some
I'm
fun.
teasing.
All right, I figured you were.
I'm having tech issues, so we are going to slow down for a second.
Oh, no.
So
I might
you
throw
can just go
punch
and read through the next one, Scott.
Oh, all right. Great. Always, technology is your best friend.
Just froze. So.
Oh, and all the pieces. All right, so again, the next one going into the black here. Do we have blue below this then, Dan?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so going into the black here, which is kind of general ops. So we had talked about really the board talking together and getting their strategic human resource management plan, which could include, it doesn't have to, but it could include, but not limited to, again, a list of prospective board members, succession planning, really mapping out your rotation of when you're on the board, really staggering terms so that not, 3 years from now, 6 board members are up for a re-election and all 6 say no thanks, and now you're left with, no board members, so to say. So again, staggering terms, those types of things are just a part of that planning process. So who wants to own that one?
I can do that.
Okay, and I think it fits. And Randy, I'm happy to talk more about that, so that makes perfect sense. Learn, is it working, Dan, at all or no?
There you
Okay.
go.
All right, then the next one, learn and implement fuel meeting agenda with the team. That's really going to be part of the learn led, so we can just put P2L there. And we're going to start into that process today. Learn and implement other tools. Again, we'll be there to walk with you, but we'll just share things with you, and we're going to walk through some of those today a little bit to whet that appetite. Explore the good board governance training. I think goes hand in hand with this one, Randy, and we can talk about that if that's something you want, don't want, etc. But if we maybe put your name there, is that okay?
Sure.
All right. So this is the one where I put Ellen in charge. If she's your secretary, depending upon how you define roles, but you need to schedule that specific 90-day meeting. So to me, that's what Ellen would own to make sure it gets on the schedule. Does that fit?
Makes sense.
All right, so then someone would need to communicate. It'll be in the agenda, but someone should probably specifically reach out to Ellen and say, these are the ones you own. All right, you're okay with that?
Yep.
All right. Then the next one, schedule deep dives and strengths. We don't have anything there. It's just something to think about. And if you get new board members, just something to keep in mind. We obviously, we value strengths. We think they're foundational. They help you to understand who you are, who everyone else is, and you see each other much more positively. So when I know that Lori's got belief, if Lori if Lori's standing stubborn on something, it seems like she's stubborn and she's not giving in, and that's where you're gonna say, all right, this is obviously outside of your values, outside of your belief, share with us what's going on. Because she is incredibly value driven. If something's outside of her values, she will quit a job tomorrow without having another one lined up, because she just can't do it. Does that make sense, Lori?
Yeah.
All right.
Please don't.
And again, if we understand those.
Different example.
What's that?
Go with a different example.
Yeah, so, but it's so very true. I've worked with people who are like, oh, that's exactly what I just quit my last job 6 months ago. Type of thing. And so again, when we understand strengths, we get to see them more positively. So John's futuristic, he's gonna be thinking out 5 years, 10 years, 15, just that real visionary, and our learners, etc. So again, you've got that, but just keep that in mind. And then begin the process to review and revise board policy manual.
Can I make a suggestion? So Georgia is the vice president, and I think that would be a good thing for her to be involved in if she has any interest.
That'd be lovely.
Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna put Georgia as the owner. Doesn't mean you have to do it all. All right. Confirm annual authorized report is on track.
I can do that.
Okay, RG. Continue exploring possible trade. I think if we really tied that up top, Dan, I think that can just probably go away. Draft and approve the policies of the Carver model process.
I've been working on that, so I can do that one too.
Okay. Anything else here? Good with that, team?
Wait, sorry, can I just, sorry, maybe I'm just dense, or maybe I'm too wedded in how I usually go about like launching companies or something. I'm a little like, okay, going about, this isn't not an issue with your process, this is more a question for us.
It's already, could be an issue with our process, that's right.
No, the process is fine. It's more, to me, like we would go about something like this in the things that we just run through in the last few minutes. That to me is something like we know what we're trying to get to. Like we've decided like we want to be this when we grow up, and we're moving towards that, and we go and execute on that. So are we saying that we've decided we know what we want to be when we grow up? Because I didn't think so.
I think
No.
the first item in red
Yeah.
that I will kick off and get going in the next 90 days is,
That drives that, right?
that drives
Yeah,
that.
Right.
And I appreciate your stake in making sure that that is clear and defined and shared and known. But I hesitate to have everything else stalled until that. I think if we do it all in tandem and kind of keep tabs on the work of that first whatever group accomplishes, that will fuel and feed the decisions of the other, what are we calling these, goals? The other tasks, action items.
That makes a lot of sense. I think not hang up. It's, for example, I don't understand how, without those things already done, I don't understand how you work with a CLA, for example, because then you're just going over numbers that, we know the financial budget of like the current operations, all that, like we're familiar, we go over that every month, that is what it is. It's not like we're looking to change that yet. If under this context, it's like you work with them for the purposes of figuring out your growth plan and everything. If you don't know what you're trying to grow into, then like going over numbers on a spreadsheet is like, that's just, I don't know how to think about that. It's one thing like for example, if we want to say, okay, if you want to build up like from your market size, you say there's like, we think we're just like spreading the gospel of like Hillsdale education, and we say like there's a population of whatever 50,000 people, and we want to maximize however many we go that we target, and then it becomes like a marketing exercise and just how many what's your market size and bring it through that, and how are we going to like market to people, get word, and just get people in, like that's. And then you do something like, okay, and then you go through the numbers and you just look at what that is. But if we're saying to ourselves, like, to Randy's, how Randy put it, if we're trying to be the best that we can be, well, then you have to decide, what does that mean? And then that might not be just get as many, maximize the number of people per year as possible. So one thing, like, yeah, I understand deep diving into numbers with like an outside firm to figure out like a model and forecast, like, you know, that's fine. We can, you know, Excel monkey all day long. I do that anyway, so, okay. But if we're trying to say like maximize our greatest potential, you know, it's sort of like maximize greatest potential to do what?
Can I speak to
Yeah,
some
great,
of that as well?
yeah.
I wonder if actually communicating and having the conversation with CLA may assist in showing they've built us this adjustable calculator, if you
Yeah.
will. Dan had an opportunity to see it the other day. And it may support our decision-making because
Sure.
when we're deciding what we are going to be as far as capacity goes, some of what will drive that number is financial capabilities. We have to have
Sure.
an enrollment that will support
Oh,
the
yeah,
program
sure.
100%.
Yep, yep.
And what they've designed for us is we can toggle employees, like how many will work for us based on how many students we have, based on
Sure,
the different
yep.
divisions, based on et cetera, et cetera. And they've built this workable calculator that might actually input for us or feed the decision-making in that vision building process as well.
I got you, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in my head, like, that sort of thing is just like, that just happens anyway. Yeah, but yeah, I got you.
I think that a lot of these things, like the first one on engaging CLA, we're not doing anything, it's just an introduction. I mean, we're doing something, we're starting the process.
No, let me be very clear. We are already engaged.
No, I understand that. I'm just
Okay,
saying.
just to make sure we
But
know
our first
very
step
far
in the
along.
process on a lot of these things is start the process. You know, develop, you know, meet, discuss what you already have established.
Yeah,
Obviously, we have to finalize some of these things, and some of them are conditional on an earlier step, maybe in the same line or not, being completed. But I think some of these you can start and they're independent. And at some point, you might hit a roadblock because something else wasn't done on this list potentially or somewhere else. But I don't know that some of them are conditional, but I think a lot of them are somewhat independent, at least on the first step.
Yeah, and part of the beauty of this, I love the discussion. So again, I get to stand from the outside and really listen to what you're doing. But part of, you know, like with CLA is just going to be more board involvement, getting to know them, understand that, how can this possibly time might open up other ideas, and oh, I didn't know they did this, or I didn't know we could do this, and it may open up other, so it's a little bit of exploratory. I like to view this, and I know graphically it doesn't look this way, but if you can kind of view this as like a funnel. Right now, you're starting with the broad base of the funnel. We're feeding things into the funnel that as we take these 90-day steps and the next 90-day steps and the next 90-day steps and the next 90, we end up at this ultimate pinpointed focus of where we want to go. We got 6 years, so to say, to get there. Now with shorter term goals in here, 3 years being in the site and those types of things. So we're going to have to do some of those things a little bit quicker. But today you're starting with that broader funnel where it's like it's still a little nebulous that way. But each step you take, that funnel becomes tighter to provide, as we talked about yesterday, that focus with the GPS. So I don't know if that's helpful or not, but great thoughts.
I think John does raise a good point, though, that premier school of its kind, we have to know what that means.
100%.
Just have the sentence at the top of the page, not forget. That's what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and that's where this has got to happen hand in hand with simultaneously as you're going along. What we don't want to do is say, wait on all this till you do anything. We just, the research behind it and really what we've studied, what we found, that just is so non-productive. So it is a little bit of building the airplane while you're flying it. But
Wait, which part's not productive?
the waiting. So if you were to spend like 18 months trying to define who we are.
Oh, no, of course not.
Yeah,
No.
and that's not what you were saying. But some places will do that. I'm just saying, some places will do that. You all are very different that way, but no, good discussion.
Yeah, but I think the issue with that is like, there are definitely places that do that, like, but it's like the same thing. It's like one of the private equity firms that I like that backed one of my companies, they spent $3 million and 12 months for someone to come up with a name for them.
Yeah.
To then come up with a name for the alternative point of view. That's just like dumb.
Yeah.
But that being said, for like our purposes, like something like, you know, for me, for example, with what, just like my thoughts when I view all this, like I think, and where I'm going with it, like I think one of the most exciting things, at least for me personally, I don't know what kind of school Margaret wants to run. Like really, like if you know, Margaret, you said, I think the board, or what, for whatever reason, you know, we've been on this path, like 850 kids, whatever it is, like, and no one necessarily said like why. And it's just like throw it out there, and that may be the answer, or it may not be, but it's like in like how you decide, like with any company, any institution, whatever it is, whoever your leader is, like the way like I usually think about things is like you take that person and like they're the leader, and it's like, okay, what do you want to do? Like me, for me, I don't particularly care. It's like in some ways, like I don't care what it is. I just care to know that the leader has like a dream. Like I want to know your dream for the school. Like you're not a BA for a reason. I actually don't really know why. I would love to know. I would love to know like what this is supposed to be for you, type of thing. Like, and those things, like there are definitely companies that go down the path, like when they do that, they achieve absolutely nothing because they're sitting in like high level land and they come up with some like pretty sounding statement that they think is a mission statement, but it actually isn't because it's not rooted in anything tangible. So like we do have to actually be focused on like how do you turn like something that at first is flowery sounding to like how do you execute on that? Like that, believe me, I have a huge appreciation for that. But like I think we're like the stage that we're in, that's assuming that we want to do that. If we are trying to maximize being great, like this is how you start. Like you spend a lot of time with, say, like your leader, your CEO, your whatever, and your founder, and you say, okay, like what is it that you want to do? And then we all figure out how to like hone that and then figure out how to do it.
Sounds like you're volunteering for the working group to draft the mission statement, John.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, look, I'm happy to do any of that.
Because I think, I'm sorry, I appreciate what you're saying, and I think that it's possible that there is more historical institutional knowledge of the short-term 4 years that we've been in existence. Sure. But, you know, and I don't know that vision is necessarily dependent on the individual that sits in the leadership seat, because sure, when the leader transitions or a change in leadership occurs, the vision must remain the same.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It must feed into mission. And I do think that our premier school statement would potentially include Premier Hillsdale College member school,
yep,
because
absolutely,
there is
yep,
definite identity in our relationship with Hillsdale, and I believe that is paramount to our foundation and our founding, and yep, it also guides and fuels decisions that we make as a leadership team. We put it through the filter of, are we in alignment? Are we carrying out the mission with fidelity to who we say we are, in a sense, yeah, who we partner with. And so I love your comments and believe that we definitely need that shared perspective, and I think that working group will get us to that, so we have more people with that inherent institutional historical knowledge, and then we can disseminate it and make sure that it's shared and understood and publicized on a grander scale. But I do think, regardless of leadership, an institution's vision and mission should be solidly grounded and be able to withstand
all of this.
Yes, to
yeah, absolutely.
This.
Oh yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So there's definite there's weight in the responsibility of that task, and I'm excited to work through it with you all.
And I think you're saying we want to make sure leadership buys into the vision.
Oh yeah, that's a critical thing. I mean, at the end of the day, Margaret with Eric, I mean, they're in it day to day. So, but I'm just thinking about this like, and I mean, this is grounded in actually wanting to do something. Like, I'm just thinking like, okay, I think everyone we're like, okay, we want to go do one campus. We know that this thing is like it'll require a lot of money. Like there is the whole like, for call me crazy, whatever it is. I think the country lacks like go-to paragons of education these days. They've all gone their various degrees of nuts. And I do believe that like we have ability to like create that here, but like put that aside. Practical reality, this is still, it just happens that the two things like kind of coincide. Like practical reality, we've all said like we want a one campus. Like we have to go and raise a lot of money to go do that. And so like practically I'm thinking like, we have natural paths to go do this. This isn't like, we fortunately, we're not in this situation where it's sort of like you gotta throw some stuff at the wall and just like think what happens, even though that's plenty possible. But like we have direct paths to go. Like we have Scott Walker as an honorary board member. The guy did run for president, which means that he's got a pathway to a lot of big money donors. But when you sit in front of those people, you have to tell the right story. We're going to figure that out. But there are things like, even in the context of like Hillsdale, absolutely right. Like we want to be grounded in Hillsdale, especially today, because there's a lot of momentum with Hillsdale. There's a lot of attention. They have like over $1 billion endowment, which we should figure out how to leverage that. Or not necessarily their actual money, but their ability to get money. But it's also like, going to the board training. There were, whatever it was, 7, 8 like active schools or something. And you talk to anyone, like everyone is clearly different. Like the thing that was starting up in like wherever, Podunk, Tennessee, you got Alaska thing. These are all different schools. They're going to be all different like versions of whatever Hillsdale is. And us here, like this is, I think, a big deal. Like we're different in like, no one gets to launch a school immediately post COVID anymore, right? Like we did that. Like no one gets to have like gone through the crazy like Margaret did of leading a school when like the entire like the whole like the entire like country is like every single day like going counter to exactly what you have to say for like every Christmas concert, right? Like you get up there and like have to explain why it is like we're rooted in religion and like Christmas songs, which seems like crazy to me. But like, you go through that, that's a big learning thing. No one ever gets to learn that again. These are big stories, we can, like that you raise money off of. Like if we get, that's why I'm just like, I keep on harping on this, because if you get these things together, like that you can successfully raise. That is compelling to people, rather than say it's, okay, we got a Hillsdale program, we're gonna make a school, we wanna get to these numbers, you have to go, that's just, like, fine, that's doable too, but that's just like, anyway.
I like this, John.
And your,
I get on my soapbox.
and your story is gonna come through all these things. I'm 100% confident, you follow the plan, follow the process, you're gonna get to that story, and you're gonna get to that pinpoint of view. So it's great.
Yeah, I get it.
It's great. All right, we're gonna move on. Okay, so we go back down. Excellent, love the discussion. Go down to the blue now. This is capital campaign area. This is that one campus site, so to say. And again, I think we have unanimity there. But we've got to now get C, current capital campaign working plan. So again, just remind me of that, or do we need to change verbiage on that?
So we have a interim director of advancement who has designed a scope for a capital campaign and has
Oh yeah,
kind
that's
of
right.
soft launched it, so
who's
that
gonna
does
own that?
exist. Probably me, because Tim
That's to work with Tim
works
Ditloff?
for- Yes,
Okay. So you're gonna connect it, you're gonna get that out in front of people, et cetera.
yes, the board has seen a draft of his work.
Okay. All right, and then here, this gets a little bit to what you were talking about too, John, finalize that pitch. What are we selling, for better terms? And again, I've done a lot of fundraising, a lot of development work. You gotta have a compelling story, there is no question about it. And it's gotta be fine-tuned, whether again, and this is gonna go a little bit hand-in-hand with your advancement director who you hire.
Right.
And again, whether you use a case book, or you use it's different things for different people. So again, actually, what I have found, if you understand the strengths of people that you go to, we would uniquely approach them based upon their strengths. Because people that have traction strengths, they want a pitch coming to them, so just 30 seconds, I don't want to take too much time. But people that have a lot of traction strengths to green, so command, activator, et cetera, they want to know they're a part of something that's getting something started, getting something moving, because that's what they're excited about. People with a lot of red strengths, the finishing strengths, they want to know that their donation is helping take it to the finish line. People with analytical, they want to know why. They want that 7-page document. Show me the why behind it. They want the proof. So again, even if you can understand some of the strengths or you can analyze some of that, it really does help you with fund development too. Yes.
How would you ever know?
I was just asking. you ever take Clifton Strengths, and again, a good fund development person is gonna develop relationships, like John was talking about, it takes a little bit to develop. And as you develop relationships, that's just a question that's there, and many of them are business leaders who have possibly been through it at one time before. They might have been like Randy, like, you're the one when I've been through this before, Scott, I'll do this with you, but I don't really necessarily want to be here. No, it wasn't quite that bad, but we had a good session. Would you agree we had a good session?
Very good.
All right, very good. But again, so we do it differently, but again, if you know that, then you can approach them uniquely with that, and it really does make a difference in work, so. But who's gonna own this? So this, I know it's gonna be with the advanced director and things like that. It's gonna tie into some of the vision work and things like that, but is this?
What are we owning?
Like,
The last, the
this
bottom
is-
one.
Kind of ties into John, like taking the lead on real estate, and he's very passionate, as we've seen about the pitch and how we can present it, so.
Oh, the pitch? Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if we got John owning that, knowing that you're gonna obviously involve others, great, awesome. Good there? Okay, so that takes care of the blue. Now we go down to,
Parking lots.
this
So
is
that's
just
it.
parking lot, everything else is done, so these are just parking lot items as reminders. Those are all the 90-day goals. And we fulfilled Ellen's desire. She said if we kind of had 3 sections, which is what
That's
we've
true.
got. And I think with a board, this is a great plan for a board. The school is gonna have a different plan, and again, I would encourage you, if you get another grant down the road or something like that, to say, all right, now what's gonna be the school's poise plan feeding into the board poise plan, et cetera. That would be a next step down the road and something you can think about, but for right now, I don't wanna muddy the waters. This is a great step with the board. And I'm super excited for the board, because this is now gonna give the board really direction and purpose and connectivity. Too many I don't need to go into it. Does that make sense? We good there, team?
Yeah.
And this is the part that surprisingly enough gets me excited, little hairs on the back of my neck, stand up, and as weird as that sounds, this is exciting. So we've got 90-day goals for the team, we've got that in place, we're good to go. Questions on that or thoughts? All right, 5-minute stretch. We're gonna come back into some of the resources then, and that was a big portion. That doesn't always go that quickly or smoothly, so it's good.
All right.
So quick stretch.